Thanks for joining those of us that are still at the show. I know everyone's kind of leaving here, but unfortunately I got the 5 o'clock time here, which is okay. There's still people here. I want to talk to you about a little girl named Dalilah. And when you hear what I have to say, I want to say that I want you to think about your families. All of us have children. Some have grandchildren, nieces, nephews, friends. I want you to hear this story because here's the thing. When you go and you get back on the interstate, I can almost guarantee you're going to think about what's happening when you're driving on the interstate. So my name is Phil Nenadov, and I am the founder of the Driver Initiative, the Driver Legitimacy Initiative. You're going to meet the girl I'm talking about here shortly. I want you to feel free to have a seat. I want you to think about a few things when I get started, and that is what is happening on our highways, okay? I am not a public speaker. As a matter of fact, I work as a government contractor. I work in the Department of Defense to help companies work to get set up as contractors for the military. And I prefer not to be in front of the stage, but it was shown to me in the end of December that I was going to have to take a stand here, so here I am today. I want you to ask a question. How many of you have heard of the Dalilah Law? Anyone? I am one of the architects of the law. If you have children, if you have families, you want to hear this because this is very real. 1 out of 5 drivers on the road has no insurance. Semi-drivers. And I'll tell you why in just a second. So the Driver Legitimacy Initiative was started as a personal passion for me this past year. But it started actually about 3 years ago. For those of you who know the book of the Bible in the Bible, there's a book called Joel. And Joel talks about something big happening. And what was going to happen was that a big law was going to happen, a big change, but I didn't know this. So, this girl here, her name is Dalilah. Dalilah's father, Marcus, please stand up, is here this afternoon with us. Marcus, come on up on stage. Come on up. Hopefully Dalilah's going to come. We'll see what happens. But Dalilah really was an innocent victim. An innocent child in the backseat of a car on a lonely highway in California. You can see Marcus. And I saw this story back in the last part of November about this little girl that was involved in an accident. A semi-driver was driving 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour, and slammed into a row of stopped vehicles. The vehicles were stopped. It was nighttime. Lights were flashing. They had their hazards on, like, hey, this is stop traffic. And you can see the video of the driver inside his tractor camera. You can see him go right into the cars. How many cars did it take out?
Total 6. How many? 6.
6 vehicles. So by the time it came to an end, there were 6 cars that were destroyed. Imagine that you're in this vehicle and you're stopped and you see a semi coming. Maybe you didn't. But you know that you can't get out of the way. Your little girl is in the back seat. Bubbly. Happy, doesn't know any different than the trust of her parents. She did survive, thank the Lord, but she cannot speak. She can't talk. I was hoping she would be here today, tonight, but she's taking a nap. Taking a nap because she's had a lot of activity. The fact of the matter is, the driver was not lawfully allowed to be on the road. So when the driver chose to take the load, the shipper allowed that load to be on the truck, but did not verify if the driver was allowed to be driving. The shipper, who I won't mention, is a Fortune 500 company. And they said, we want this load delivered. We don't care how it gets there. Just deliver it. So Dalilah is maimed, okay? She can't speak. She's here today. She'll be here tomorrow. You'll have a chance to see her. But the fact of the matter is, we need to make sure that the drivers that are on the road are qualified to be on the road. When I, as a military contractor, my job is to train companies to make sure that drivers that go on the base are qualified. And so how do you do that? You make sure, one, that they have a valid CDL. You make sure that they are a U.S. citizen. You make sure that they speak English. And in the military sense, they have to have no felonies. I know that's different for the way it is in general freight. If they go into a base and they don't qualify, they will be turned away. If they have an open warrant, they'll be arrested. It happens almost every single week. But there's nothing in it, in this industry, for the general driver. Okay, we know that the shippers, we know that the brokers, we know that the carriers have all responsibilities. We know that that there's safety is supposed to be on this road. But a 5-year-old girl, it's not her responsibility to know that the road's safe. She just needs to know that she's going to be in protected care by her mom and dad. How many of you have been involved in a semi-accident, hit by a truck? I want to see kind of hands. You've been hit by a truck. How many of you have been hit by a car? How many of you have been hit by a car driver with no insurance? It's tough, isn't it? From what I understand, court 3 times? Okay. So that's a very important part. We're talking, first of all, about, and you're talking money in court, but we haven't even gotten there. So this little girl got hit by a semi-driver. No one takes responsibility for it. This family has not been acknowledged by anyone, from the governor of California, any senators, and if I'm incorrect, you can correct me. Insurance, shippers, carriers, brokers, whatever. The fact of the matter is they're here to change the law, to work on the law. So in December, I started looking at a change. Secretary of Transportation Duffy had mentioned something, and he had said, if you are a driver that's not legitimate, you should not be on the road, and we're going to remove funding from a state that does not comply. Okay, that's a good point. How many of you know that there's really no control over what a shipper does? A shipper, they can say to a carrier or a broker, I don't care when you get the load there, just get it there. If there's a snowstorm, a blizzard, I want my freight there. Otherwise, I'm going to find someone else to do it cheaper or different. If you're not going to do it, I'll find someone else to do it. We know that there is a lot of opportunity in this industry to sacrifice safety, the safety of our families, the safety of our children, the safety of our environment for the sake of capitalism, and that's okay to be capitalist. I'm pro-capitalist. I think it's okay to have a business. I think it's okay to make money, but not at the safety and risks of our families and our neighbors and our citizens. And so as you look at Dalilah here, there's one thing that's for sure, and that's her life has changed, and this can be changed forever. Dalilah comes from a family of 8 children. Is that right? 9 children. So she has siblings. Okay, they've all been affected. Her family here has been affected by this. And it's really clear when I started this that we can't wait until the government comes up with a plan on how we're going to work through this. If we don't do this together as an industry, it's not going to work. So I was approached in the middle of December when Secretary Duffy, I had not even met Marcus at this time. Secretary Duffy said we have to start holding shippers accountable. And say, you know what, we need to hold shippers accountable. I started working with the states, with different state legislation officials, governors, senators, just our representatives, just kind of working through what would it look like if we can hold the shippers accountable. Now, let's think about this for just a second. How many of you heard about the Florida crash? Well, I think we've all heard about the crash in Florida, right? Okay. This is not a nationality thing. My dad was an immigrant from Yugoslavia. He'll tell you he passed away, but the first thing he did when he came to America is he went to English school. He said, if I'm going to come here and be an American, I'm going to learn English. Has nothing to do with nationality or immigration. It's the fact of the matter is his point of view was, if I can't talk to Marcus and I can't communicate with him because I chose not to learn English, I've disrespected him and everyone else. My father also said, if you can count the money, you can learn the language. And I thought that was very true. To the day he died, he said, if you don't become an American, when you come to America, you're not an American. Because this is the only country in the world where everyone that comes here the right way is an American. Okay? So when I started working through with the military and I started to see that there was some verification gaps in the system, I had built a system back about 2.5 years ago. And I was asked at the end of this last year to see about implementing it in the general freight world. How many of you are truck drivers or family of truck drivers? Okay. How many of you have your own companies? All right. So the fact of the matter is, when you have a verification gap, and you think about this, 1 out of 5 drivers is not legitimate. When you think about that, just let that sink in for a second here. That means that they don't know the laws of the land. They don't speak English. They maybe double broker freight. Has anyone been a victim of double brokering? Does anyone know what that means? Who doesn't? Is anyone that does not know what that means? So that means that I'm a trucking company, and I say to you, I'm going to take your load. And I've got a carrier authority. I take your load, and I broker it out to another carrier illegally. Now, if I was in banking, if I was insurance, if I did any crime in those industries, real estate, the medical world, I would be in jail. I'd be in federal prison. If I'm a double broker carrier and I take a load from Marcus and I pretend that I'm going to take this load and I give it to another person and that person takes the load and they ask for a comp check. How many of you know what a comp check is? Or T-check? That's wire fraud. If I pretend I'm a carrier, and if I took a load from another carrier and I took it illegally, even if I didn't know, he says he's a broker and I take it and I'm not legally on that load, it's wire fraud because it's not legitimate. 1 of the 5 drivers that you see here is not allowed to be driving for multiple reasons. So here's really what it comes down to. As a result of someone else's, whether it's a bad decision or an intentionally wrong decision, illegal. In some sense, I'll just call it for what it is. If I don't care for my neighbors and I think it's okay for me to commit a crime, then it's, in my words, evil. It's wrong. He has now become a victim, okay? If I'm a shipper and I give freight to someone that shouldn't be on the road, that should be my responsibility, my fault. I should take responsibility for it. And I know that there's a lot of decisions made on verification, and we need to verify. But if our children are being, let me put it this way. If I'm on the road and I say, Daddy, there's a driver that's driving really fast and behind me. As a driver, I would be like, let me get out of the way. I don't want him to hit me or her to hit me. We should have that same attitude. We're going to protect our families. We're going to protect our lives. We're going to protect the industry we're in. And so, really, when it comes down to the system that I created that's going to be coming to the states, I'm working on one part of legislation in the whole scheme of things that's going to hold the shipper verified, the shipper. Though, because at the end of the day, if a truck like this pulls up, okay, if a truck like this pulls up on the dock and you're like, that doesn't look professional. I mean, and this is a picture of a truck that doesn't look professional, but that everyone has an interpretation of that. The fact of the matter is, it is my decision of what's my reputation like. I will tell you, there's a Fortune 500 automaker, I won't mention which one, that will not allow any box trucks that are yellow, do we know who those are? Trucks to be loaded, because they don't want the reputation that the driver is pulling up is not a legitimate driver. And that's their policy. If you pull up in a yellow box truck, to me that means that you got an old truck. It's not your identity. You're taking someone else's identity. The same thing with this with the whole driver legitimacy is about making sure that we have the identity of the company, the driver, that they are the right drivers involved. I want to ask Mr. Coleman, Marcus Coleman, a couple questions here. What day did that happen? What was the date of that accident?
That was going to be June 20th, 2024.
2024. Where were you going, if I can ask, just in general?
So Bakersfield is where we're from. Bakersfield was having a heat wave. We were getting about 114-degree weather out there. My daughter was headed to Victorville to go swimming for the weekend. That was the only. So
basically, you're going on a family weekend. It was very hot in Bakersfield. I lived in California, and I don't know if you've ever been there in the central California. It's pretty hot. So you're going out just to take the family to go swimming for the weekend.
Correct. She was with her stepfather.
Okay.
So, yeah,
what was happening that caused the traffic to stop? Do you know?
Construction.
So I'm sure there was signs saying construction ahead, correct?
Yeah, there was one sign out that said construction.
One sign ahead?
Yeah.
Do they know what the driver was doing?
We have no idea what the driver was doing.
Has he not talked to anyone?
He doesn't even know. He's pretty much said that he panicked. He didn't know what to do, which is basically being undereducated.
Undereducated?
Yeah, and he said he didn't pay attention to the sign. So there was just a number of different stories that came out.
Okay. And, we're not here to necessarily, we're here to address a bigger issue. With when you think about 1 out of 5 drivers that is not legitimate, we think about different ones. We think there's a girl in Idaho. Her name is Maura. Now Maura was killed in the accident that she was involved in. One of the things that separates Maura's story and why she's not on this stage and why it's important to know it, though, and she was one of the 2 girls that was part of the campaign I was starting. And this is the campaign. Dalilah was hit by a CDL driver. Maura was hit by a driver who was a U.S. citizen with a driver's license. What's the connection here? The connection here is this. If you're given a driver's license unlawfully, a driver's license unlawfully, you're eligible to become a CDL driver. So one of them was a possible future driver, and one of them was a current driver. The information that I had and done research on when I started to look at the different cases was, we're looking at a situation where we all have families. When we go home, when we're driving on the road, what's going to happen is if you get hit or by a driver who's not a legitimate driver or is not supposed to be on the road, there are clauses in insurance certificates that say if the driver was not supposed to be behind the wheel of the truck, there's no coverage. And really what that does is that puts at risk everyone else on the road. Now, in your situation, and to respect you on what you're going through in your situation, the fact of the matter is that as a broker, as a carrier, as a shipper, we want to make sure that the people that we have on the road are the people that should be the people that should have the freight. And if you don't know who's behind the wheel or who's got your freight, as they say, you shouldn't put them on the road. I don't know about you, how many of you would be willing, even if you're desperate, to take a ride with a drunk driver for 5 miles? Anyone? I tell my girls and my son, my children, I said, when you're driving somewhere at nighttime, you stay out of the left lane as fast. If you have to pass someone, you get in the left lane and out of the left lane quickly. Why is that? Because drunk drivers like to stay in the left lane because they're thinking they're going home, but they're going the wrong way. So their left lane, our left lane is their right lane. Okay? They're not in control of their vehicle. The same thing as being hit by someone that doesn't know what they're doing. It's scary when you think about it. If you're in a car and you have a semi-truck or a motor vehicle that's behind you and they don't know what they're doing, they act like now we know some that don't know what they're doing. I've been on the road. I'm sure you've been on the road, and it's like, boy, that guy looks like they're under the influence, right? We've all seen a drunk driver drive somewhere. Okay, we're not going to be in the area to make sure that they're going to hit us. So we're going to get as far away from them as possible. But a lot of these drivers we see on the road, we have no clue. And here's where we find out. After we're hit, after the accident, we find out exactly what happened. So I've been working with the states on a couple of things. Now, Dalilah law I believe, is very important. I believe in this rule that if you're going to drive if you're going to work as a truck driver in the United States, regardless if you're a U.S. citizen, maybe you're a green card holder, maybe you're a permanent resident, you should have an interest in this industry fiscally and responsibly, okay? The Dalilah law is going to eliminate those who are here just for a job, but have no intent to become a citizen of the United States, among other things. So in other words, if I've got a visa for 4 years to be here, 2 years, but my CDL 6 years, what's to say I can't drive without an expired visa after 2 years? I can continue to drive. And it's only until I get caught hey, you know what, you're not supposed to be here, that I will not be able to drive a semi. A lot of the things happen after the fact, right? Laws are changed after the fact. One of my siblings, he was hit head on by a drunk driver. Okay, this was in 1998. I remember the night, and I'm sure if you have family, you remember. Fortunately, thank the Lord, he survived, but people didn't. Okay, And the fact of the matter is this. If we can, within our power, within our control, make sure that things happen, that they don't drive, that's doing our part. So this system here is the military system of verifying a driver that is eligible to drive in the United States. I'm the only one that does what I do for the Department of Defense. I'm a consultant, contractor, if you will. I train people how to move freight within the Department of Defense. There is no one else that does this. I've been doing it for been in it for almost 22 years. And what would happen is that we're going to take this from the government point of view, okay? If we expect the system to work, we have to hold the government accountable that they are making the system work, and they were not. So here's the thing. Marcus is a driver. I'm a broker. I got a load, a flatbed load or van load, whatever type of load, hot shot, reefer load from, let's just say, Fort McCoy, Wisconsin to Fort Hood. The base calls me and says, I got a load for you. I need to know the name of the driver information. I give them the name of the driver information, and we send them in. When they get to the base looks them up in the system and says, you can't come in. You either again, you're not a citizen, you don't speak English, or you have a criminal record. Where's the gap here? If I gave the government the driver's information, why didn't they tell me right then and there, oh, we can't use that driver? So if we're expecting the citizens to have that same standard of making sure that we're working together, that's right. We want to make sure the government is doing it. So I created a system that the broker or the trucking company, because we do run through this with trucking companies, can verify if the driver is legitimate. It has a 99.6% accuracy rate. Why? Because when the driver puts their information in the system, when it's checked, it checks it from Interpol, DHS, terror watch lists, all the registries, every federal, state, and county system. It can determine if they're a U.S. citizen. It can determine if their CDL is correct. It can make all those determinations. And so what I'm working with the states is to say this. This system is free for anyone to use. There's no reason, there's no barrier to entry. I'm a shipper. I want Marcus to pick up the load, and I can plug in his information, and within 3 to 5 minutes, it'll tell me if it's a green, yellow, or red check mark. Green means they're approved. They're qualified to drive. Red means they're not a driver. I see there's no yellow there. I wanted to see a yellow one. Yellow means that there's something on their record that disallows them to haul the load. The driver knows this before I do, because the driver is notified and saying, you're good to go, or, hey, there's something wrong with your record, you got to fix. The shipper has no excuse. If they use a driver that is not approved, there's no coverage for them legally. And it works. It works. And so as we talk about legitimacy, we talk about these things, when we go back to 1 out of 5 drivers, you think about the 5th driver, we don't know who that driver is. We don't know who they are. They could be someone that lives near you. They could be someone you've never seen before. But the one thing that keep in mind when you're talking about driver legitimacy is who's got your freight. As a shipper, my choice and who I use is going to determine how your life is. And I don't know about you, but if you've been involved in an accident, and I've been involved in anyone else been involved in just a regular accident? Who hasn't been involved in an accident in their life? Is there anyone that has never been involved in an accident? You've never been one? No accident? Congratulations. Hope you never do. The fact of the matter is 1 out of 5 drivers is not legitimate and should not be on the road. So a lot of times I think about Dalilah a lot, and I think about other little boys and girls. I've got nieces and nephews, and I'm not old enough, I guess. Maybe one day be a grandparent, but that'll take time, I guess. That's not my call, I guess. But the fact of the matter is that every company out there that hires a driver is responsible, but it's ultimately we have to hold the shippers responsible. Come on, shippers, you got to know who's loading your freight. I had a client, a broker who uses this system. He said, Phil, I need to know, can I use it for general freight? One of my customers had 7 loads stolen in 1 month. 7 loads stolen. Anyone here with a reefer? Refrigerated freight? So let me tell you about this. What happens is when a shipper goes and they go to, a carrier goes to the shipper's dock. So it may not necessarily be the customer, but it might be the producer of the freight. They'll go up there and they'll look at the paperwork and they'll look, okay, all right, it matches. But the fact of the matter is that when we think about preventing crime and we do our best to make our industry better, the people that are doing the crime are just as good, okay? So if we think we're going to really get to them and we're going to really make a difference, the people that are committing the crime are doing just as good. And I'll tell you, does anyone know what city, anyone here in the trucking industry in the late 90s, early 2000s? Can anyone tell me what Burbank, California or Glendale, California stood for? They're the capital of fraud, okay? Crime, criminal fraud. And I had experience because I was doing military freight. You need to go. Okay, thank you, Marcus. So I had experience here. I just signed up. I was just consulting with a company, that brokerage, big brokerages, and I was going out to one of the offices in California to get them set up to move freight. And this is interesting. So they said, Phil, we don't know who this broker agent that's working for us. They just started working for us, but we're kind of curious because we're starting to see we're missing some money. And I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. Brokers are in the money business. Really, when you think about it, I'm a broker. I get a load for $2,000. I find a truck to do it for $1,800. I get paid $2,000. I pay the carrier $1,800. I make $200. Well, who do we have here? We have Miss Dalilah. I guess I have to tell you my story in just a second. All right, let's get a big round of applause for Miss Dalilah. She is the actual little girl. Hey, can I get a vibe from you? Hi. Thank you.
Can you say hi to everyone?
Say hi to everyone. Can you? No.
Can you
I gotta find a candy. Anyone got some candy on here? Let's see here. Oh man, I got a little energy bar here. That won't work. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Oh wow. No, she's like, oh, forget that. Well, thank you very much for this. I appreciate it. You blow them kisses? No. So Miss Dalilah was introduced by President Trump at the State of the Union. I don't know if you knew this, but I was working on some of the things in the background, and someone called me and said, Phil, the little girl you are working about, that's the kind of the face of your initiative, she's on TV. I'm like, really? And she was on with President Trump as he was announcing the Dalilah Law. There is a pamphlet with you there in front of you. And I'm going to just make a heartfelt a plea for her. This little girl was 5 years old when she had an accident. She doesn't talk. Okay? She's been in this situation when she came out. Very critical condition for a long time. On the back of the page, you'll see it says support. There is no financial money for them. And he's not here. He has no idea I'm going to say this. But from my perspective, from my interview, my research, my investigation, that makes it hard. It's one thing to be hit by someone and saying, you know what, I got coverage, the insurance company. But this Fortune 500 company has walked away. I don't know how they can sleep at night. I would love to say their name. I really would. I think we should. If you started to say, ABC company was the one that had their freight on there, you know what they would say? They'd say, who hired the truck?
First off, you turn me on? First off.
No, let's go beyond it.
First off, I'm not ashamed to say it at all. The shipping company was C.H. Robinson. C.H. Robinson's currently at the Supreme Court asking for immunity in about 8 or 9 different cases that they're facing. They're hoping to continue to put people out on the roads that are causing these accidents, and they're asking for immunity in that. So they're right over there. I really don't give a crap.
Okay, but C.H. Robinson. Now, do you care if I tell whose freight was on the truck?
Yeah.
You care? Target, right? Okay. How many of you have gone to Target? I'm going to say this. I'm putting a big target on my back. No pun intended. It was Target. If you think about it, you go to Target next time and you buy clothes there. Look, Target, I love you. But do the right thing. And I've said this. Take care of this girl. But you know what? It's more than that. The fact of the matter is, and again, this is not a political thing. It's the right thing to do. Verify the driver. Make sure the driver's on track to take the load. And I get passionate because I think about my children. I think about my son and my daughters when we would drive. And there was a time that we were on the road in our on the back of the trip. We had borrowed someone's RV. We stopped, and the semi behind us did not stop. And the only reason I know that is because the nose of the semi was to my right when we stopped. That means that if that driver did not swerve off the side of the road, which is said construction site, almost the same situation as you were. We were coming back from South Dakota. We would have been completely, I don't know where I'd be. I don't even want to think about it. But the fact is, the matter is you have to think about it because it's a reality. All right. Thanks.
Can you say goodbye to everybody?
Say goodbye. You can't? Okay. She's... Okay. So I did ask him permission before I said that. I want to be sensitive to the fact that this is not about picking on companies, picking on people. It's about picking on doing what's right. But I'm going to tell you this story.
And just a reminder for everybody, Dalilah's Law, Stand with Dalilah, we have the truck outside. If you guys can come out and sign it, we're going to be taking it to the White House. Thank you.
So, there's a scriptural principle that says if your neighbor is hungry and you say, hey, I hope you're feeling pretty full. I hope you're doing good. You have needs? Nice to meet you, sir. We'll see you later, right? It doesn't do you any good if I don't help you. And so there is a fundraiser for Dalilah to help cover some of their expenses. They're doing this all on their dime. They're not being paid by anyone here to present Dalilah's Law. The gentleman has a passion to say, you know what, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. So the fact of the matter is, I'm going to go back to this situation where we don't know who's behind the freight. I was working with a client moving military freight, and they said, Phil, out in California, we have a broker agent that's going to do our military freight, but I want you to go see this other agent of ours because we lost like $100,000 we haven't been able to find on freight they moved. And first of all, anyone in brokerage here? Okay, what is an agent doing collecting money for freight? Is an agent supposed to be collecting money? Not at all. If an agent takes money from a freight, from a shipper, instead of the broker agent, instead of the broker, that's fraud. Only the broker can get paid, not the broker agent. So that was a red flag. And I said, okay, I'll go find out what's going on. So I called up the broker agent, the agent down there, and said, hey, I'm going to be in the area. I'd like to come and meet you and kind of see your office. Oh, okay, what are you doing down here? I said, well, I'm just kind of sitting in some offices and was kind of just wanted to see how things are going. Oh, okay. So what address can I meet you with? Well, you know what, where are you at? I'm going to be at the Best West or Holiday Inn or wherever I was. We'll come pick you up. Oh, no, I'll be happy to come pick you up. It's all good. So I said, okay, I'm at the Holiday Inn Express. You can meet me and pick me up. Called my wife and said, if I don't come back, I'm at 123 Main Street. These two guys in black suits and black ties and black glasses and a BMW, black BMW is all black, pulled up and they said, hey, how you doing? I want to show you we'll show you our operations. We went to their location and guess what's on the wall? It's all bars. I felt like I was an undercover spy going inside of this place, okay? It was a sweatshop. I've never seen a sweatshop like it was. And you know what? Those guys are there today. It was that one. I'm sure it was the other one. This guy. Yeah, that might be him. But anyway, I got in the back of the car, and they asked me questions like, where are you from and why you want to be here? And I was like, I just kind of want to know what, I'm here to maybe see about having you do a military freight for us. Military freight, we can do military freight. Oh, really? Yes. What's required to do military freight? Well, you got to be a citizen. Oh, man. Are you sure? I guess we can figure it out. Oh, you know what? I got a guy that can do it for you, but he's in XYZ country. Oh, no, you got to be a citizen. They will never know. Well, how's that possible? We have a VPN. Anyone know what a VPN is? VPN means I can act like I live in Seattle, but I'm really in another country. And I said, the government won't approve of that. And they said, they won't care. They won't know. So anyways, I go there. There's bars there, and there's a bunch of people sitting there. And I knew exactly what they were doing. They were double brokering. And I'm like, I was hot. It was no air conditioning. I was like in a movie. And I came out and I said, okay. And he's like, well, he asked questions like, so are you sure that they sent you? Why are you here? I'm like, no, you're an agent with this company. And I'm like, I'm not going to ask them about this $100,000. And they're like, well, if you have questions, we want to answer them here. And I'm like, well, no, that's fine. So they're like, okay, we'll take you back to your hotel. I'm like, oh, great. Sunshine. I'm seeing light. I get back and I make a phone call to the broker. And I was like, do you even know who these people are? No, we found them on the internet. Well, guess what? Within less than 7 days, they were gone because they caught wind that the broker found out what they were doing. Okay? They were suspicious. Like, okay, great, we're busted. They went back, they were gone. It was just like the whole place shut down. That's one example of an illegitimate driver or broker. Another example of an illegitimate driver is someone that doesn't rightfully so pass a CDL test. How many of you are from Illinois? Anyone from Illinois? I live in Illinois. You know what the motto for Illinois is? Welcome to Illinois, where our governors make our license plates. Is that about right? 4 governors, I believe, in history, the last one was, well, we know who he is, Governor Blago, have gone to prison. Anyone know why George Ryan went to prison? Why did George Ryan go? George Ryan went for CDL scandal. He was selling CDLs for his campaign. How did he get caught? Does anyone know how he got, except for the ones from Illinois? Are you from Illinois? Okay, except you. He got caught because here's what happened. You know the story? Hang on. Come over here. What's your name? I feel like Jerry Springer. Oh, never mind. Hey, what's your name?
Banjo Wallace.
Banjo.
Yeah.
Do we sing here?
No.
I'm a park comedian, by the way. Just kidding. To my kids, I'm a bad dad joker. Why did he get caught?
There was an accident on 294 up by the mall, northwest Wisconsin border, and the driver ran over a van full of people, killing everyone in the van, and the driver did not have license legally. He had purchased his license through a license scandal that they held in the state of Illinois.
Okay, close enough. You get parting prizes for that, but good enough. So he is right in one sense, except the fact of the matter that the driver was not a legitimate driver, and there was a piece of the truck that fell off and lodged under the minivan behind them and caused it to explode, and it killed 7 children in the van. No, it wasn't Trump. Okay. Anyways, but the point I want to say is this: he went to jail because he was illegally giving away driver's licenses. The judge in this situation told Governor Ryan, who wanted to have an opportunity to go to his wife's funeral, he said, "You're not going to your wife's funeral because you caused 7 children not to be able to say goodbye to their parents." And he never did go. So the fact of the matter, I think about these illegitimate drivers driving down the road. If you see them, keep an eye on them. You won't be hard to spot them. You know, we make fun of, I'm going to say there's a company here. I will say that one of the best companies out there, I'm not paid by them, but I'm impressed by them, is Walmart. I live right by a DC. I never see a broken down Walmart truck. I never see a Walmart driver get out that's all greasy and sloppy. You know what? Regardless if you want to go to Walmart or not to do business with them because they're a superstore, there's nothing wrong with that. My point is, it is not a specific stereotype. They can come in many different forms. It's how we find out, how we protect ourselves. And there's a lot of other issues we can discuss on this topic. So, 1 out of 5. This girl was the victim of one of the 5. Coming down to driver legitimacy, it comes down to this: if we do our part as a industry to hold ourselves to a higher standard, sorry, I'm having fun, then we will do better, and we don't need to wait for the government. So here's why I say about the states. And then, so let's just say, for example, if a state, if it was required that drivers had to be verified by the shippers, it's going to be very difficult to do it on a federal level. It's going to be very difficult to do it on a 50-state level. And when I say this, this is the thought process. I'm going to go back to this. So, Jason Hall can go to any shipper because he is verified and he is eligible to go to any shipper because he's qualified. Lisa Anderson, by the way, these are fake names changed to protect the innocent and the not so innocent, is not able to be approved because of one reason or another. If the states were accountable, held the shippers accountable, and said, okay, you have a driver that's not eligible. Maybe they're an illegal immigrant. Maybe they are in fraud. We're going to do this. If this happens, the driver's incarcerated, the truck is seized, and the freight is held in limbo until the legal issues are complete. Meaning, you got to go to court. The freight is stored in a location as evidence of a crime. I think shippers would be less likely just to use anyone. they would use someone that is going to protect their assets. The reason it would work better on the state side is because the states represent we the people here locally, our constituents. The people in the Senate and Congress, they don't know me, but my local representative knows me. And my local representative on the state side would do more to listen to our concerns because we put them into office on a local level. Now, with that being said, you don't need that many states to comply to this. If Texas, for example, said, okay, everyone that wants to deliver or pick up freight has to be a U.S. citizen, do you think all the other states would have to comply? Absolutely, because anyone that wants to ship freight to Texas is going to have to find drivers that do that. It would be a domino effect. So our booth, 18268, the Dalilah Law, is where we're working on the legislation for this on the state side, having really good interest. Did a summit in Atlanta. It took me 4 weeks to put together a national summit. Don't tell me how. It was crazy. I think I overdid it. But the fact of the matter is, when I put it together and built the framework for the legislation, 3 weeks later, Trump announced the Dalilah Law. It was nothing I had known was going to happen. But the fact of the matter is, I worked from the federal level. I worked with the Immigration Customs Enforcement and the Federal Bureau of Investigation on the Criminal Act. I worked with FMCSA and the DOT on the Motor Carrier Act. The shippers that were there included Maersk Ship Lines. Maersk Ship Lines was there. They are the second largest ship lines. And you think, well, what did they have to do with this? All that freight that comes in is going to be part of the verification process, is what we're working on. So this act is supported by truckstop.com. It's supported by OTR. They've supported this initiative for me to be here today. I'm just a one-man show. So, any questions? Does anyone have any questions? I can have one in my hair. Dan, you want to run the mic? You want to run it?
Did they catch the carrier? You verified, or was the broker the carrier in the accident here?
The carrier was a chameleon carrier. You know what a chameleon carrier is? Chameleon carrier is someone that has just changes. They might have 6 different MC numbers, and as soon as they go to the situation where they're at, they just switch carriers. I think they did, but I don't know the complete rule. I know that the driver self-deported out of country. So in essence, there's no justice for Dalilah because the driver decided to go back to their country. And that's kind of interesting because they weren't supposed to come to the country. And then when they were supposed to be held accountable, they went back. They weren't supposed to go home. They were supposed to stay for their court case, and they decided to go home. They're just able to leave. On the back page, again, if you go to the support page, there's a page to do a sign a petition, a QR code. If you go there, if you want to support to her cause, everything is going to go to their family. And they were very, very thankful. I mean, there's some other money that was raised for them, but I decided, you know what, let's kind of start holding some of these companies that have money to help them. And that they're not the only one. There's a lot of people. Where's the mic? Oh, this gentleman right here.
Hi, my name is Dustin. Thank you for doing this. About 20 years ago, I was hit by a semi. Guy didn't have insurance. Thankfully, I had a good attorney. Went after the guy, the shipper, the broker.
So you went after the shipper and the broker. Mm-hmm. And who paid you? If I can ask.
I don't know who ended up paying, but My attorney said we're going to send him back to the country he came from, and we're going to take his house, take his truck.
Send him back to the country he came from, so he wasn't supposed to be here.
Right.
Is that right? Is the broker around still? You don't need to tell me. I mean, I'm not here to give personal information.
It was 20 years ago. I don't remember.
20 years ago.
I was 18, so.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else have a question? A gentleman back there.
Yeah, I've got a couple of points on this that's really disturbing as an owner-operator. The Amish crew that you read about up in Indiana,
Do you want me to talk about that? Or do you want to say something about that?
I want to say something about it.
Please do.
I run that route. Foreign driver. The thing I know about that, if that shipper was fined $250,000 for putting a load on an illegal truck, and that broker was fined $250,000 for putting that on the truck, if you want to get some attention in this country, that will do it very quickly. And yes, that's a big fine.
I agree.
It should be a big fine. We've got a family now suffering because the whole crew was destroyed. And just one other thing.
No, go ahead.
One other thing beside that, as an owner-operator, I stand in line at shippers, and just happened this week. Don't tell me it's hard to find these people. 3 people in front of me couldn't talk to the clerk, and they still got their load, and they still went out. You know, they're rude as can be to the clerk. The clerk can't talk with them. They're talking through their cell phone, and they know they're illegal drivers, and they put the load on them.
Thank you. You bring a good point. I have a shipper friend of mine. He's a manufacturer. The people he buys from, the shippers he buys from, give him such a hard time because he wants to make sure the drivers are verified. What? You didn't get the load out because this guy wasn't legal to drive? Come on, get my freight out. And he goes, I get such a hard time. But you know what? You make a very good point. You make a great point. Now, the Amish, I don't know. Does anyone really understand how the Amish live besides they don't have electricity? They're very forgiving people. They don't sue. They'll forgive. And that's wonderful. But there's a problem. That doesn't bring the justice out. Now, we think of justice as getting my rights. We have to stand for what's right. And I don't think that they're going to say, and I don't want to disparage anyone. You know, they're great people. But the fact of the matter, however, I'll say however. I don't like the word but because it sounds like I'm just negating what I said. However, the fact of the matter is, that doesn't take care of the standard. The standard would be the accountability part, okay? And that's why, regardless of how I feel, if the state says I'm going to do something regarding this, they're doing it on behalf of the people of the state, not the person, the people, and so because if you think about it. If you wanted to sue and you didn't want to sue and you wanted to sue and you didn't want to sue, I mean, it would be up and down. What kind of standard would you set? The set would be you broke the law in our state, you need to pay a consequence. And so, a lot of times, I'll give you an example. When my brother was involved in the accident with the drunk driver, 100% remorse. Checked themselves right in to help right away. Now, I said that there was people that died in there, and I apologize. There was no one that died in that crash. But the fact is, those are circumstances we look at the repentance of a person that made a bad mistake versus someone that's defiant. You take in the fact, okay, that person's willing to acknowledge their mistake. The state can make the decision what they want to do as far as penalty. But the fact of the matter is, when you're talking about someone who has a CDL, they're making a decision to drive a semi. If someone gives a CDL illegally to someone else for money, they're making a moral issue. I'm going to give a CDL. I don't care what happens. If you kill 10 people, it's not on me. I made my money. And that's where the Dalilah law is going to change that with our shippers to keep them accountable. Because the shippers, they know the rules. So I want to thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. And my passion lives, and sometimes it lives past an hour. So I want to thank you all for your time and have a great afternoon.